All right, so let's take this from the top. It is on localhost 5000. So have you tried running it? If you go out to http://localhost:5000, it should come up. If it doesn't, let me know, but it should. Well, you're going to have Node up and probably be in that folder. Did you copy the zip file? Okay, that's the best thing to do is to copy the zip file and then unzip it and then right mouse click inside of the stocks folder and do a git bash here and do a node. I think I called it app.js. When you go out to GitHub, you want GitHub now? What's this code? Yeah. You want to well, go off one, hit your up arrow then, and right mouse click on it, choose extract. Go to wherever from there. Now double click on there, right mouse click, do a git bash here. And you should be able to type in node space, or node mod. Well, what is it? npm space run space dev. Should come up. Just try node space f. Okay, enter. Okay. Try this. Let's see if this will fix it. Close that. Just really exit from there. All right, go back. Go here. Go back up one. Change the name of the folder to just stocks. All right. Double click on the folder. I want to see what the folder means. All right. Right mouse click on. Try it again. So just try node app again. I don't know why you wouldn't get it. Come on. All right. Well, just keep these minimize that and open up package.json and it opens the code there. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. Okay. Go back to your git bash window. Clear the screen. Type in npm space install. See, I did get the git ignore to work. So you didn't have any of that stuff in there. So you don't have Express, you don't have Express handlebars, you don't have NodeMon. Okay, you didn't have anything. That didn't give you an error, did it? Okay, now try npm space run dev. That's good. That's actually good. Minimize your dev. Now, in your browser window, go out to, like we said, to go out to localhost :5000. All right. By no means is this perfect, but guess what? The good news is you're going to make it perfect. All right. So if you look right now on your screen, it's not done yet, just so you know. There's one more thing I've got to do, and it's an important thing. What we want to be able to do, if you look up on the top of the screen, you see the navigation bar, okay? And see where it says, way to the right, it says enter stock name here? Mm-hmm. Well, what we want to be able to do is type Facebook in there. Right now it's not going to work, just so you know. But I want to type Facebook in there, and then it's hard to tell, but if you look right next to it, there's a button that says search. Mm-hmm. If you click on the button, what we want is everything that's inside of the Jumbotron there, we want it to disappear, and we want it to be replaced by stock information. Okay, and then if we do it again, and we type in Apple, it'll change to Apple. Does all that make sense? All right, this is the same thing that we built yesterday. We're going to look at it, dissect it, look at it piece by piece, okay? So I've got an H1 tag on each page, on the top of each page. Notice welcome to the home page. Next one is welcome to the about page. Last one is welcome to the contact page, okay? As you peruse your way through there. Then if you look again, right underneath from the home page, you've got the Jumbotron there. The Learn More button does work, and then it takes you to the About page. All right. Then afterwards, we put in 3 paragraphs of just lorem ipsum text. Okay. Any questions on anything that's on that home page? Then go to the About, and you'll notice I played a little bit. The images were really big, so I made them all the same size, and that was fine, except it worked for 3 of them. But just so you know, the last image, the one that's for the bull, it looks a little bit squished because that was a bigger image than the other ones were, and I made them all the same size. I didn't have to do that, but I wanted them to basically go in the same area, look the same, etc. All right. Then underneath that, we've got 2 paragraphs, and you can see again the footer that's down on the bottom. Then if you go to contact, you can see how that's set up. All right. The form does not go anywhere right now. The form does not do anything. Okay, just so you know. All right. It should be, I haven't checked, but I thought that I did. If you look and you squeeze down the size of your browser window, it is fully responsive. Now, is it possible that when you get to a certain size, it looks funky? You know what I mean? Where it's going from? Yes. Because I didn't basically put anything in here other than it's bootstrapped to begin with. But if you look at it, I mean, it could look a hell of a lot worse is the way that I look at it, okay? It's by no means perfect, but it's not bad either. All right? So let's do this then. You can keep it running. And go back, if you would, to your Git Bash window. And that's where you had all that stuff in there. So when you look in here, what I'm going to do for tomorrow is I'm going to go through there. I'll have, for instance, the symbol, the company name, the primary exchange, the close price, the high. There's a 52-week high and low down on the bottom, etc. So I'm going to put about maybe a half dozen or so of those things in there, okay? Now, you can see all the things that are in there, correct? All right. There may be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. It doesn't look like there are any, but sometimes when you go out to an API and you ask for information like this, they just don't have anything, and it's blank. For whatever reason, it either means that that information is not available at this time, or there isn't anything. But I mean, I'm looking in here, and they've got a lot of stuff. If you go down about 2/3 of the way, that starts with IEX. That's the package we're using. Okay, so they're like IEX open is null, IEX open time is null. You see that? So like that stuff, you know, it's either going to be left blank, put null, or for instance, IEX bid price is 0, bid size is 0, etc. So it'll be one or the other. All right, but I want to go through what is in there right now. So we're going to look at a bunch of the code that's in here today. All right. All right. Next, if you go back over and you take a look at I want you to bring up the folder structure for this, if you would. Now, I did this one the right way where I had you do it the wrong way. What I mean is, and it's good that yours didn't work at first. Remember we had to type in that npm install? That's because if you look at all the files, I put the .gitignore in there. And that .gitignore, if you know, it's literally, it says it's 1K in size. All it says is node_modules, which means that, you know, when you go and you take this thing and you put it up to GitHub or Heroku, which is what we're going to do eventually, or any place, you know, when you put it up there to any place, that don't bring that node modules folder in there. All right. If I right mouse click on the node modules folder and I go to properties, it says it's 11.8 meg. All right. Which, I mean, let's face it, that's not humongous. Okay. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's not humongous. If I highlight the whole thing, it says that it's 17.3 meg. So in other words, about 11/17, so about 65% of the file is in node modules. All right, so you can see how much we cut it down by putting that into gitignore. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, then taking a look at what else is in there. First of all, I want to do this. Can you bring up, you know how to bring up Windows Explorer on your computer? Mm-hmm. All right, bring up Explorer. In your Explorer window, I'm going to run through it too. I want to make sure because I'm going to follow these instructions. You know, Windows Explorer, File Explorer, it's the same thing. So let's see. Okay, they're having you do it in a different way here. So let me try this quickly and see if this works. All right, so in your desktop it says click the start button. Oh, okay, let's just come here and do it. Control panel. All right. Okay, well, this worked. I don't even get it, but okay. You want to bring up control panel on your machine? Bring up control panel. There we go. Or you can use the control panel on there too. All right. Go in there and type in folder space options. Yeah. All right, open that up. All right, now under go to view and show hidden files. Make sure that's checked. Click OK. Close that. Close that. Close that. Now go back to your original, the folder that you copied from me. What are one of your projects that have no stocking up or something? There, see it now? Mm-hmm. So we got it there now. Shouldn't have been that hard, but All right, so the .git, I don't think we have to go over. The node modules, you already know what that is, correct? Those are all the dependencies. When we added Express handlebars, and I added a couple of other things. I added the path module and the body person module. But if you open that up, what you're going to see is a bunch of folders. And those folders have in their code, and they also have in their dependencies as well. Okay? So, I mean, there's a lot of junk in there, let's just put it that way. In the public folder, if we go through in there, you've got CSS, so please open your styles.css file in there. Not very big, not even 40 lines. I set some stuff up for the colors, etc., so you can see that junk that's in there. All right, for the HTML and for the body. You know, my wife was laughing when she saw this yesterday. I don't know if you noticed, probably don't remember or care. I had a purple shirt on. So when I came home, I was playing with purple. You know, I don't even know why, but I was, because I'm sitting at the table and I'm playing with purple, and that's why it's got a purple background. And then white looked pretty good for the coloring. The H1, you can see that again, I centered it, put a little bit of margin on it, top and bottom, made the font size bigger, made it bold. The Jumbotron and the header and the footer, played with the color on those. Okay, just played with the background color a little bit. And actually, I think if we took out the one for header and footer, I think this would still work just fine. In fact, you know, I don't think you need the header or the footer in there. The paragraph for the Jumbotron, I made that a little bit bigger and bolded it. The footer, I took the code out. I literally keyed in a Google search, Bootstrap sticky footer, and I grabbed the stuff that they had in there. Okay? All right, so that's the style stuff. We go back up. The images, that's pretty self-explanatory, but if you put your mouse over the images, they're all 2000 by 1333. You just put your mouse on them, it'll say the dimensions. I found that typically when you make them all the same size, they look nicer. But the problem is, like I said, you can see from looking at that bold picture right there, just the fact that it's skewed funny. I probably should grab a different picture to put it in there. Feel free to do that if you want to. All right, there's nothing in the JS folder, so nothing to talk about in there. Okay, then let's go into views. If you look at views, what you'll see is in layouts, I've got the main.hbs. Well, when I showed it to you yesterday, where we have about.hbs, contact.hbs, file-not-found.hbs, and index.hbs, yesterday, that's where we had our main file. So it was in the wrong place. It was a pathing issue that we were having the problems with. All right. So in the partials, we've got our header and our footer. Let's start there. So let's go into header.hbs and open that up. And as you can see, you know, that's basically what we have for each page. What is that? Well, lines 1 through 11 is all the head stuff. I did add my style sheet and added it after the Bootstrap style sheet. There should be nothing new there. Then the rest of it from lines 13 through 36 is the nav bar. I copied it directly from the one that we went over in class and took all of the ones that were in there and changed it so all I have now is home, about, and contact. Okay? We've also got that form in there. As you can see, it says enter stock name here. And right now, the name of it doesn't even have a name. But I think I'm going to need one. In fact, I know I am. So don't worry about giving it one. We're going to go on this one tomorrow. Then there's the button down below it. If you don't like the color, notice I made it outline secondary. All right, so for instance, if I change it from outline secondary to outline primary, just as an example, go back and refresh, then you'll notice that the button, when you put your mouse over it, is now blue. Okay, no big thing, one way or the other. All right, so that's the header. Let's open the footer.hbs. Pretty, that should be pretty self-explanatory. You don't like that, I want you to put your name in there. And if you don't like stock market app, change it to something else, okay? If you want to put more in there, you can. I am going to ask is for part of your lab for this, I want you to start making some changes to it just so you get used to working with the stuff. So we'll get into that in just a couple minutes. All right. Then let's open up the layouts and let's open up the main.hbs. I had a little bit in there, of, I had the header and the footer in there yesterday, but you need that greater than sign when you're working with sections like that. So what this is saying is, each time you bring a page up, plop the header in, plop the body in for that section, for that page, and plop in the footer. Header and footer, it's grabbing from header.hbs and footer.hbs. The body, it's grabbing from either contact.hbs, index.hbs, or about.hbs. Does that make sense? And really be honest with me, I want to make sure it does. So again, we have one header file, we have one footer file. So the header and footer are looking the same on each page. All right? Now, what you'll notice though is you can say, well, the header and footer do look the same on each page, but I changed on each page the title. Welcome to the home page, welcome to the contact page, welcome to the about page. We'll look at that in a minute. So what you have in this file, the main.hbs file, is how you want each page to be set up. So what we're saying is for each page that uses main.hbs, each page that uses this, since this is our main layout file, each page that uses it should have whatever is in header.hbs at the top, whatever is in footer.hbs at the bottom, and what has been defined in that file, everything else is body. Does that make it a little easier to understand? I don't know. Then at the bottom, we need these Bootstrap files for this stuff to work. Okay, so go ahead and close that. Let's open up the other three that are in there. Go up a level and our other four. Open up about.hbs, contact.hbs, file-not-found.hbs, and index.hbs. And let's do the file not found first because you can see it's got 2 lines in it, or 3 lines. You see that? So notice we said there H1 ID equal title. See that right there? And it's got title in there. The only reason I put an ID on there is if you decide later you want to go and do some formatting on that, you can. You can use some CSS. But you see where it's got curly brace title? All right. That's on each page. So what you're going to see in just a minute is in the app.js file, we're passing the title in right there. All right. Close that one and open up index because it's first. And notice on all these pages, there's a main, there's an H1, and there's a div. You see that? It's like that on every page. So the main, then the H1. So again, that title in there. So that's going to be welcome to the home page in just a minute. All right. Then we've got our container. This is everything exactly that we did together, where we did the carousel fade, and we went in and we changed the images to Wall Street stocks, NYSE, etc. Okay. Then underneath that, I've got the 2 paragraphs of content. That's it. Does that make sense? All right. So close that one. Oh, I was in the about one. I'm sorry. So in the index one, we had the div. We've got the Jumbotron, and notice, if you don't like what's in there, this is a Node.js stock market app. You can put anything you want to put in there. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of standard to put a learn more type of thing in there that goes to an about page, and that's why I did that. But you don't have to do it either. All right, and then there's just 3 paragraphs of dummy text. The about I already mentioned. That's got our carousel in there, and it's got 2 paragraphs full of junk underneath that. The contact page that's in there, you already know this because, again, we did this. We went and grabbed that contact form code. Okay. We didn't really make any changes to that, but feel free to if you want to, and we added 2 paragraphs underneath that. Okay, now let's go to the one that we have to spend a little bit of time on, and that is go back up and open up the index.js file that's right underneath stocks. This is not done. You'll notice there's a bunch of stuff in there that's commented out. Can you see that as you work your way down? And I'm not going to lie to you. I probably shouldn't say this on a tape, but I took an online class with this guy and I'm modifying his program. And actually what he asked to do was he said, I want you to go in there now and write your own. All right, I've been writing my own code. I've had some problems with my own code, so I've got his code in there and it's commented out. I don't want to use his code. I want to use mine. But last night it just got to where, I'm not going to lie to you, it was 9 o'clock. I was tired. So this is as far as I got yesterday. So let's take a look at it from the top. All right, first we add express, then we add handlebars. Notice I just called it handlebars. We could have called it something else there. It doesn't really matter. Line 4, do you see where it says const request? All right, I'm going to ask you if you understand what a word means, and if you do, say yes, and if you don't, please be honest. You know what deprecated is? If something is deprecated, okay, let me put it to you this way. When I first got into when I went to my second teaching job, all right, this was 1993 or something like that. I went in there for the interview, and they said you're going to teach one programming class, but you're going to have several sections of an apps class where you teach Word and you teach Excel, etc. And they said we also have a little thing in there that teaches DOS. You've heard of DOS before, the disk operating system. It's the commands that you put in when you bring up the black screen, the CMD screen. But the guy who was talking to me said, but don't worry about it because basically DOS has been deprecated, meaning that no one uses it anymore, and when you do new development, you're not supposed to use it anymore. Fast forward ahead, it's now 27 years later, all right, and we're still using it. So when I brought up request, because that's what this guy did in the class, there's another package called Axios, and I was going to use that, but I had some errors when I was working with it, so I just went back to what he had. The point is, when I went in there and I installed request, it came back up and it said, this has been deprecated, you shouldn't use it. The reason that it's been deprecated is they found a couple security holes in it, so people can get to it. I don't think you should worry about somebody getting to your stuff. I'm not going to worry about it because we're not actually using this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Okay, then so we can use the file path. All right, I brought in path, and I'm right now I'm not using body parser, but I thought I might. What body parser does is it allows you to take everything that's passed in your request and break it up into pieces. All right. Okay, then we instantiate express. I put comments in here just so you saw them. Set up the port number. Said we wanted to use the body parser middleware. Everything in line 17 through 35. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that or fix it or whatever. So let's just skip that and go down. Lines 37 to 48. Okay, line 37, that big line that you see in there, and it's really 37, 38, and 39. That is saying we want to go out to the API for that thing where I had you get your account from, the iexcloud.com. It's saying go out to its API, and I want you to find a stock. By default, right now, since it doesn't work when we type something into that enter stock name, I just defaulted it to Facebook. So where you see where it says FB, see that? I'm on line 37. It's got https://cloud.iexaps.com/stable/stock/FB. If we changed it, for example, from FB to Apple, it would give us Apple stuff. That's what we want to be able to do eventually, okay? And that public token that's in there, that's mine. It will work because you copied mine, okay? And mine is still active, but really you want to put your own in there. Does that make sense? Okay. And just so you know with your own, I don't know if I showed you this or not, so I am going to. I think we looked at it, but we're going to again anyway. I'd like you to go out to please to iexcloud.io on the internet. Should be a big black login page. Click the sign in button in the upper right. All right, hopefully you remember your password or it's filled in already. Log in. Two things I want to mention about this. Come on. Okay. First one is if you go down right near the top, about 2 or 3 down on the left, see where it says API tokens?
Yeah.
Okay, if you click there, I just used my public one. All right, yours is different than mine because mine is PK_C2F15. Yours is different because you got a different one. You should replace mine with yours. The reason for that is I'm going to have you fix this up, pretty it up, etc., put your own spin on it. But if you decide later that you want to put this out on the internet, it should be yours, because if I ever go and remove my token or disable it, yours won't work. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. If you go down towards the very bottom, you don't have to click anything, but if you look on the left-hand side, down near the very bottom, you see where it says API docs? You don't have to do a bit there. But if you want to know more about the package, it's in there. I mean, there's page after page after page of how this is used. Almost anything that you work on has got something like this. We're going to do a project together, you and I, where we're going to work on, I don't know if you've ever heard of the IMDb database. IMDb is the Internet Movie Database. And I'd like us to be able to try to hopefully set something up where eventually that we're going to use, we will use that database. We'll probably, I think it comes in a MongoDB format, and we want to set it up so we'll have something like this, but it'll have a lot more links. And what you'll be able to do, you'll put sublinks in it in your menu, etc., and you'll have a thing that'll say movies, and you'll go down to it and you'll have maybe action, adventure, romance, etc. And when you click on it, it'll bring up all the movies that are in that particular genre. You might have another one that says directors. So if you want to search for all films made by Alfred Hitchcock, all right, then we'll have something in there that say actors. So if you wanted all Leonardo DiCaprio movies, do you understand? Does that all make sense? Yeah. Okay. What we're going to do before that, not right now, but hopefully next week or so, it might be a week from Monday, I don't know. But we're going to go and we're going to write the same app 3 times. Sounds a little weird, but let me explain what it is and why. What I did was I went out to the internet and I saved it someplace. I found, I think it's the 15 top books to learn Node.js and the 15 top books to learn JavaScript. I'm putting that information first. I'm going to put it into a JSON file so we can go over JSON, and we're going to make our own API for that, and we're going to set it up so you can list all books, you can list one book, you can update a book, you can delete a book, etc. You get that? Then we're going to go back and take that same thing that we created with JSON data, we're going to make it into a MySQL database, and then talk about what we have to change to make that work. Then when we get done with that, we're going to take the MySQL database and we're going to write a MongoDB database, and again get the API to work. That's my plan, is to have us do that. So you'll have the same API, the same type of thing, but you'll have it 3 ways. So we might call it's going to be a books database, so we might have books JSON, books MySQL, and books Mongo, or something like that. Okay, and then we'll get into where we'll be writing some other stuff. All right, so let's go back then. I just wanted you to see that. Go back, if you would please, to your index.js file. And again, I'm still on line 37, which is telling us to go out to the API. We want this information returned as JSON data. Just so you see it, go back to your Git Bash window where you had all that stuff that went on the screen. And that is JSON data. JSON data is in key value pairs, and between them you get a semicolon. So the key is, for example, if I go right near the top, the key is symbol, the value is FB. The key is company name, the value is Facebook Inc. Does that all make sense? Okay. So since we told that we wanted it in JSON, we put it true, that's what we wanted. When you use this request thing that we're using right here in lines 37 through 39, it can either work or not work. If it doesn't work, that ERR variable that you see there will have something in it. That's an error variable. So if for some reason we had an error, that's what would get logged to the screen. Let me explain to you. You don't have to do this, but I want to explain to you why this is a good thing. Yesterday, when I copied in the key that you see in line 37, I don't know how, but mine ended with 3F, not 349F. I left off those 4 things. It wasn't working, it wasn't working, it wasn't working, and I was getting, pardon my French, pissed. I'm like, what the hell is wrong? So finally I looked, and the error message is really poor. It just basically says cannot find data or something like that. But I said, it's got to be something in my code. So I went back and I looked, and sure enough, I had the wrong key in there. And as soon as I put in the right key, it worked like a charm. So that error is if you do have some kind of error. Now, normally you wouldn't just push that or just log it like that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But the problem is if there's an error and you do a console log, with some errors, you might get a lot of information. What if somebody comes to your website, they're a bad person, that they want to do some damage maybe, and they go in there and the console.log gives them a lot of information. You don't want to do that. So normally you wouldn't do that. You would maybe even, we could have done here is we could have done a console.log, made our own error message that just says a problem has occurred, please try again later. That would probably have been a cleaner thing to do, just so you know. All right. Then the next thing there says if res.status code equal 200. Couple things about that. First of all, almost any publication that you see on JavaScript, and we're still working with JavaScript, says don't ever use 2 equal signs anymore. Use 3. Remember the difference between them? Because triple equal is known as the identity and equality equal sign. All right. So if we just use 2 equal signs and we put single quote 200 single quote, it would be true. You don't want that. So just get used to like we have here. 200 means it worked. So what we're saying here is if it worked, log all that information out. That console.log body that's on line 45, that's what gave you all that information in your window. Okay? All right. The finished, we're going to have to work on that. That's what we'll be working on tomorrow, just so you know. All right. Then looking at the rest of it, we're setting our view engine. Okay, so notice here, we're set view engine. I put HBS. All right, and the reason that I put HBS in there like that was we wanted to be sure when we did that we would be able to use the shorter extension, not the word handlebars. So that's our view engine. All right, and then notice right down below it, if you're going to do that and set the view engine, because by default that would have been the word handlebars in line 51. Then when we go down and we've got app.engine, all right, we need to put in there that ext name that you see. You see that on line 56? Because that's letting the system know, hey, the extension we're going to use now is HBS, not the word handlebars. And also, just so you know, line 54 where you see app engine HBS and you see the word handlebars after that, that handlebars, that word on line 54 has got to be the same thing as what you called it up in line 3 in the constant. So we could have called it HBS right there. All right, but stuff wasn't working and I started changing names and stuff around because I kept thinking, what the heck's the problem? So once it worked, I just left it the way it was. Okay, all right. So what we're saying is our engine is HBS, all right, or handlebars. The layouts by default are going to be in /view/layouts. And our extension name for our files is going to be .hbs. All right. Then after that, we're telling it where to find our public static assets. So that's where to find our client-side JavaScript, our CSS, and our image files. All right. Then we've got some rendering. So this is all the rendering that we're doing. This is going to eventually change. Lines 62 through 65, they'll look more like what you see commented out in lines 67 through 75. So they'll change. All right, for now, please leave it the way it is. So what this is saying is if all I put in there is a slash, all right, or if I leave it out, so this should work whether I put in localhost colon 5000 slash or just localhost colon 5000. But then what I want to do is I want to bring up or render the index page that you see right there. And the title I want to pass to that index page is Welcome to the Home Page. All right. Again, I'm skipping all the stuff in there that's commented out. We're going to go over that, not today. Once I get it to work, we're going to go over it. So please go down to line 89. All right. So the rest of the rendering, as you'd probably guess, is shown right here. All right. So if we put in slash about, bring up the about page, and the title we pass to it is Welcome to the About page. If we bring up contact slash contact, bring up the contact page, and the title we bring is Welcome to the Contact page. Does all that make sense? All right. Then remember, the last one that's in there, for lack of better words, is our wild card. And that's saying if we bring up anything other than slash, about, or contact, bring up our file not found page. And all that's going to have in there is sorry, file not found. So if you go back and you run it again, so if you go back to it, and for instance, I got the about page in there, I'm just going to put an S on about. So it says abouts. And it comes up, you can try it yourself if you want to, with sorry, file not found. Because there is no page called abouts. That happened for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense? All right. And then finally, we've got our message that we're going to be logging that's on, that's under Node itself that says app now running on port, etc. And if you go back and you look where you've got all that stuff printed, you'll notice that right up above it, it does say app now running on port 5000. Then you've got all the information. Now, we did that quickly. Is there anything that I just went through that doesn't make sense?
No, not for the most part.
Okay, but I want you to take a look at it, okay? Now, this is what I want you to do with this. I want you to Keeganize it. And what I mean is, it's not a joke. What I mean is I want you, let's just go back to the home page. All right? Decide what you want to put in there. You can, for now at least, if you want to, you can, I guess I'd like you, if you don't mind, to leave the Jumbotron in there. What we're going to end up doing is putting a table in that Jumbotron, and that's where we're going to put all the stock information. Right? If you go, you know what, I don't like the Jumbotron, then go in, you can remove it. That's totally fine. And put in there then like a table or something like that, because we're going to put a zebra striped table in there. So it's gray, then lighter, then gray, then lighter, so it looks nice. All right? And I don't like welcome to the home page. I came up with stocks that rocks. I'd like you to change that up there, Keegan stock portfolio, whatever. But it should be something that sounds professional, something that if you had somebody else look at it, that it would be fine as far as you're concerned, okay? All right. Also, I guess I'd rather have you put a little bit of your own text in there, where it says here up above in the Jumbotron, this is a node, etc. You could put some of that text down below. All right. What you might want to do as well is you might want to put in an unordered list or something like that that says, hey, here are 20 or 30 stocks that you might want to check out in there, and put the names in there. For instance, just so you know, I didn't know this until I was watching his tape. I don't think if we put in Google, when we get this to work, it's going to work. I think it's got to be like Goog, because that's its actual name. All right. So what you can do is just, go look up, top 25 stocks or whatever you want to do. Okay. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I want you to personalize it. All right. So fix the home page. If you don't want the Jumbotron, you can get rid of it and fix the text that's there. If you don't like the footer that's on the bottom, of course, you're changing it to your name. But if you don't like the footer, change it. If you don't like the coloring of this, I'd like you to change it. All right? One thing about this, if you don't know this already, I'm just going to take for granted you don't. And if you do, I'm not trying to talk down to you. But if you would, please go out to getbootstrap.com again and click the documentation at the top, and then click the components down on the left-hand side and go to buttons. Do you see those colors that are there under the buttons?
Yeah.
Okay. If you turn around and you make your header and footer BG primary, it's going to be that blue. All right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, oh, it's got to be colorful, but it should look professional. The colors should go together. They should look nice together. There are sites out there that'll tell you what kind of colors go with other colors, etc. I want this thing, pardon my, sounding hokey, but I want it to rock. I want it to look good. All right? All right. Then going back on your About page, personally, there's nothing wrong with the 3 that are in there, but I actually wish you'd get rid of the bull and change that to something else. All right? But try to make it the same size so it looks good. If you don't like the fact that right now it's only taking up, it's centered on the screen, if you'd like it to be wider, make it wider. If you like the font, want the font bigger, make the font bigger. All right? I want this to become your app. And again, with those 2 paragraphs that are down there, just put something in there. All right? And then finally on the contact page on the end, if you'd rather have this, notice one thing we're never asking in here. I just looked at this right now. It's email, password, address. See that? We're never asking a person for their name. See that? So you might want to add in there up above the email, and you could just copy the email and the password, and you could make those first name and last name.
Yeah.
All right? Do you understand what I'm saying as far as, not only having you personalize it, but like professionalize it? Does that all make sense to you? All right. Then what I'm planning on doing tomorrow is I'm going to see if I can get this to work. And if I can get all this to work, I'll give you the rest of the code. All right. And I want you to keep working on this. So today I'd like you to spend, just continue on this. Now, let's say, okay, Jeff, I continued on. I changed the colors. I did this. I did that. It's 1:30. Okay. Probably wouldn't be there, but it's 2 o'clock. All right, so what do I do next? Well, then let's do this. I think I gave you this stuff, but I want to make sure. Where is it? I think I gave you the folder that says it's called. It might be on your flash drive. I don't know if you put it on your flash drive, if you put it on your desktop. But remember that folder I gave you called AWD1111-Node? All right. Like I said, I don't know if you put it on there or not, but let's go to Labs. And let's open up Lab 01. Okay? All right. Now, this is what Paul is assigning. So notice there's a portfolio. Then after that, there's a landing page. And then after that, there's a subscription service page. All right? Well, why don't you, if you don't mind doing it, have you already turned me in your landing page and all that other stuff? Okay. Why don't you work on that landing page, and why don't you make it so it works with Node? So you don't have to redo it. You've already been working on your portfolio, correct? So put that in the Node, all right? And for this subscription service, it says provides a landing page for a subscription service. You can do that, all right? Or you can pick out something else. I don't really care. In fact, you know what? For Project C, we'll have Part C be the stock exchange one. See what I'm saying? So you already should be working or have some stuff for your landing page, you should have some stuff for your portfolio. And for part C, we'll do this node stock app. Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right. Then, when you look in here, let's go, I'm still in that folder. And I'm going to go to, you don't have it, so let me see if I do.